Welcome, everyone. This is Coffee Talk with the NAZ Suns. It's our first ever Coffee Talk. We're excited to get this series started, and we hope you enjoy it. Thanks for tuning in. Our first guest is GM Jeff Feld. Hey, Jeff.
Hey, Jake. How are you?
Pretty good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be the first guest.
Yeah, it's a good time to do it. We're all in quarantine trying to find things to do. So we'll launch right into it. We got fan questions here, and the first one is about quarantine. What have you been doing? What have you been doing to stay sane during quarantine?
Luckily, I'm fortunate that even though basketball's not going on right now, we have a lot that we're working towards and a lot that we're doing. Part of my responsibilities is outside of, or I should say, during the Northern Arizona Suns season, and then before and after, I'm working close with the Suns front office and doing some scouting stuff and keeping an eye on the players that we might be looking for two-way prospects or training camp invites. The guys that, the players that you guys see on the court, those are heavily scouted throughout the year, years prior. So been doing a lot of film work and getting ready for helping the Suns with the NBA draft, as well as the players that you guys will see with Northern Arizona next year and even in the years to come.
So, yeah, it sounds like you're definitely staying busy. That's for sure. Another question here for you. Generally speaking, where do the players live during the season? Prescott Valley or in the Valley?
Yeah, that's a great question. We have all the players are provided housing up in Prescott Valley. So they are local up there. And then, a lot of the players end up getting a place, either renting or living with some of the Suns players at different times down in Phoenix and in the Valley area. So the majority of the time they're up in Prescott and they love being up there. But a lot of times they venture down to the Valley as well.
For you, speaking of, I'm not sure if this was related to your previous gaming experience when you're on the court or as a GM, what's your favorite pregame routine or ritual?
Oh man, that's a tough one. I've tended to be a little bit of a superstitious person before, but that kind of got the best of me and kind of consumed me at times. So I tried stop doing any kind of rituals or anything that was too consuming. So really what I found to be kind of the most helpful is just getting a good meal before the game. And a lot of the times I come to the arena early, and the catering that we have at the arena is tremendous. So I try to sneak over there, make sure to stay out of sight of our players because I think a lot of them would be probably pretty jealous, but the food over there at the Toyota Center is pretty good. So I think the thing that I do the most is probably just go and sneak into the buffet before the game.
Our next question starts off with, what's up? Just wondering if you can get in touch with the coaches. Looking forward to trying out for this great organization. Connected to that, it says, fresh out of high school, working every day, interested in tryouts. Can you just speak on maybe the tryout process and how people can try out for our team?
Yeah, those are great questions. Our hope is that we're going to have our open tryouts again this year, with not knowing what our schedule is going to be and everything kind of being abnormal right now. Typically, we have two tryouts, one up in Prescott Valley and one down in Phoenix. That's what we had this last year. We had a great turnout, really competitive, and we ended up bringing 4 guys to training camp from our open tryout. So it's a great opportunity to be able to get a chance to kind of show your skills and potentially become part of the organization. And then at my previous stops, and even at you see kind of success stories from the open tryouts all over the G League. So guys who make rosters and even guys who end up making the jump from the G League to the NBA. So it's pretty cool having that opportunity and that route available to the public, and we hope to have that information as soon as we know kind of when the schedules or when the season for next year is going to get going. And so make sure to keep an eye out for that information.
Yeah, fans of Prescott Valley definitely know about the tryout success. We got Josh Gray that very first season, and he got called up by the Phoenix Suns the very next year. So I'm definitely familiar with that. So, yeah, tryout if you think you can make the team. It's tough competition, but it's possible for sure. Next question. How is it being a GM in the G League with the rosters constantly changing, especially year to year?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's one that I get a lot. And there's actually, I would say that it's more difficult dealing with the turnover in season and the variance of the roster in season than it is year to year. And the reason that is when you're in season, you go into the season with your returners, your affiliates from training camp, tryout players, drafted players. But then you have trades, you have assignments, you have injuries, you have cuts, everything that can change your roster on a nightly basis. We have two-way contracts. That's two more positions and two more really important positions where even if you don't have anything going on as far as injuries or a reason not to have those guys with you, with your G League team, the NBA team might have an injury and need to call those guys up and have them available. So it makes it really difficult to have any kind of consistency, but I think that's what's fun about it. And I think that there's great opportunity that comes from that when you have a starter or you have someone like a two-way player who's playing significant minutes and gets an opportunity with an NBA team. That just opens up another door for someone further down the bench who's going to have an opportunity and get a chance. So it's great. And our hope is to get guys called up and get guys into the NBA and develop our own players. And that's why our hope is to get as many guys back as possible if they don't have NBA jobs, the next year, because we want that continuity for our players and for their development, but also so you guys have some familiarity and some faces you recognize from year to year as well.
A fun question for you, Jeff. What's your favorite color?
Favorite color? I probably have to say blue.
Any particular reason?
I don't think so. I think that was probably my answer the last time I was asked that, which was probably back in elementary school or so. So I don't know if I've really thought about changing it.
I'm surprised you've lasted that long without being asked. Do you have any pets?
I do. I've got two 7-year-old Siberian Huskies. So a boy and a girl. The boy's name is Manning, named after Peyton Manning, because I'm originally from Denver, and we got him right around the time Peyton came to the Broncos. And then our girl is named Happy, and she was a rescue, and she came with that name, and it's because she's always smiling. So they're adjusting to life in Arizona. I don't think the desert was, or I don't think Siberian Huskies were made for the desert, but they're actually getting along quite well. And one of them, our boy Manning, actually really likes the heat.
I thought you were going to say you named your dog Happy after Happy Gilmore or something along those lines. What has been your favorite season in your basketball career?
Oh man, that's tough as well. I mean, I've been really fortunate to be around some really good teams, some really good organizations. I think the one that's tough to beat was probably 2016 with the Cavaliers. Obviously, the championship run there, being around that every day and being a part of that was pretty phenomenal. I'd say a close second to that was my second last year at the University of Arizona. That was Sean Miller's second year. That's when we had Derek Williams and Sondel, and ended up being a 5 seed in NCAA tournament. We beat Memphis in a close game, and then beat Texas in a close game, and then we blew out Duke in the Sweet 16, and then lost to UConn, who ended up winning the national championship. But it was just an unbelievable run, and seeing somebody like Derek Williams who played as well as he did and kind of earned himself the number 2 pick in the draft that year. Just seeing how he went off and kind of the return of Arizona basketball at that point was pretty cool.
Was that the year of Cardiac Kemba?
It was, yeah. Unfortunately, we were the next victims, but they'd taken down Kawhi Leonard and San Diego State the game before us, and then we had a shot to tie it right at the very end and just bounce off the front of the rim. But I guess it feels better when you see the team you lose to ends up going on to win the whole thing. It makes you feel a little bit better.
Yeah, definitely. Jeff, where are you from?
So I was born in Los Angeles, but about age 5, moved to Denver, Colorado. That's where my dad is from, and we had family on both sides that lived out there, and so it was a great place to grow up. Lived there until I went to college at the U of A. So short answer is I grew up in Denver.
You like it? Just like it out there, or how long were you there for?
Yeah, so I was there from like I said, about when I was about 5 years old till I graduated high school, and I loved it. It was a great place to grow up. So many things to do outdoors. Great sports town. So I grew up a huge Broncos fan. Nuggets weren't very good at the time, but I did follow them, and Colorado Avalanche and the Colorado Rockies, both expansion teams that moved to Denver while I was living there. So it was a great time to be a sports fan there, and ended up picking up skiing, and that's something that I did almost every weekend growing up, and pretty competitively. So I love that, and still do that to this day.
Perfect segue for our next question. Did you play sports growing up?
I did. It's funny. I was actually more of a football fan growing up. I didn't really have any interest in basketball. I was kind of on the smaller side, and I was just a huge Broncos fan. So I grew up playing football. Ended up going to a very, very big sports high school called Cherry Creek High School. My parents made me stop playing football. They were afraid I was going to get killed. So I stopped playing football, and at that time, that's when I started getting into basketball. And my brother, who went to the University of Kansas, which is a huge basketball school, got me into basketball, and I had a growth spurt and started playing, but was never good enough to play for my high school team, but played club and intramural, and was active in playing other sports too.
What position were you in football?
Oh man, I played right guard, I played wide receiver, and I played linebacker. I remember teams laughing at me because I was one of the smallest guys on the field. But I think my low center of gravity helped me be a really good guard, and I catch, and I was also a really hard hitter, so I was kind of deceptive.
How do you like Prescott Valley?
Prescott's great, in Prescott Valley. Really, really, really enjoyed my first year up there, and I know my family did as well. Once my wife moved out to Phoenix, bringing the dogs up there, and again to spend some time outdoors. I mean, it's just an unbelievable G League city. We were really, really fortunate to have the community support us up there. I know all of our players. You travel around to all these different G League cities, and there's some that are better than others. But I know a lot of the times when you get players that come to Prescott Valley from other teams, and they're blown away by it, and they wish that that they played for us, or wish that they could live in our market and kind of have everything that we need. We're close to a big city in Phoenix, but you get to live up in the mountains, and at elevation, and which a lot of the guys haven't done before, and kind of allows them to go explore stuff outside, and just having the community and the support that we do, it's really, really special. So I know I enjoyed it. I know my family enjoyed it, and it was great.
What I've been so surprised about is how so many of our players have never even been to Arizona before.
Yeah.
Like living out west and living in Phoenix or Prescott Valley, and how many tourists we get, and how many people come through our towns that you would have thought they would at least been to Arizona, but so many of our guys haven't. And all of them seem to at least love Arizona a lot. So yeah,
no question. And I think it's a lot of them are are pleasantly surprised when they find out that the weather's different than being in Phoenix. You know, you have you have the seasons really. You have snow, you've got rain, you've got a little bit of cold, but it doesn't get too cold. So I know guys really seem to enjoy that.
Yeah, definitely. What's been your favorite memory from this season?
It's funny. This season all of a sudden seems so long ago. Now that we haven't been playing, you know, and it was a great year. You know, as far as the development of our players went, and I think we had a really good group. And for my first year with the team, I don't think I could have asked for more as far as how the community welcomed me and the organization and everything we got from our players and from our staff. I think if I had to pinpoint one, you know, one moment, I think our first road win at Santa Cruz was tremendous. We were, I think we ended up losing Trayvon, who was playing really well for us after the first half. He ended up getting injured, which was a huge blow to us, but we were a little shorthanded to begin with. And our guys rallied, and Santa Cruz had one of the better teams in the league, and that's probably the hardest place to play. And I think we led wire to wire, and you know we got up by double digits, and then they came back and got close towards the end. And I was just really proud with how early in the season our guys kind of dealt with adversity and a tough environment to play in, and that environment in the locker room and everything afterwards was pretty cool to be around.
That's really cool. I remember I felt so bad for Trayvon when I talked to him after this, because in that first quarter he had 4 steals and a block.
Yeah,
so he was great. To shatter some records, and yeah, unfortunately the energy. But, is being a GM what you imagined it would be like?
You know, I'm not really sure what I imagined. I think overall it is. I think that there's a lot that you don't realize that you deal with that's kind of non-basketball related, whether it's administrative or doing things, you know, with the community or things like that. But that's, you know, managing people, managing your staff. But that's kind of all part of it, and it's something I really enjoy. I love being around people and working with great people. And the basketball is you know, it's a dream job to be able to watch basketball and evaluate players and try to get guys better. Just every part of it's great. So I think to some degree it was what I was expecting, but there's always, I think one of the most valuable traits of the job is kind of to be malleable and being able to adapt to things that change on a you know, without notice, or things that you don't expect. So yeah, it's been for the most part what I expected.
Last one from our fans here. What should I expect to see from the NAZ Suns next season?
Oh man, that's hard to say. There's so much change from year to year in the G League, like we were talking about earlier. You don't know what your roster is going to look like. You don't know what your schedule is going to look like. You don't know what the league is going to look like. You know, just overall, I mean, you have just since we've stopped playing, I'm sure everybody has seen the professional pathway that the league has been promoting and signing some of the best players in the country to, and starting a new team that is going to be competing against some of the G League teams that are already established, as well as a potential for a team in Mexico starting up as well. So I think the entire landscape of the league could look different, will look different, but with what you can expect to see from the Suns, I think our hope is to get a lot of our players back that we felt like we're making you know, great strides with us this last year, both on our regular roster and then potentially with some of our assignments that you guys, you know, we're able to see guys like Ty Jerome and Jalen McHugh, and then whoever we end up drafting, whoever the Suns end up drafting or signing, either as undrafted free agents or training camp invites or two-way players. our hope is that we're going to be able to continue to bring talent in and exciting players that play hard and put a great product on the floor. But we also want to start building on some of the success I think that we had this year, even though we didn't see as much success as far as winning games. We felt like our players took big steps forward as far as their own development, and we want to see them take that next step to have it start translating to wins and potentially seeing guys get called up.
Thanks a lot for being our first guest on Coffee Talk with the NAZ Suns. Appreciate you being the GM and doing a great job all year. And yeah, I know the fans will appreciate you doing this.
It's my pleasure, and I really appreciate all of you guys, your questions. It's just a lot of fun to do, and would love to do it again. We'll see if we can get maybe some of our coaches and players, out of their hibernation to help out as well. So keep the questions coming.
That's all the time we have, so we'll catch everyone next time.
Thanks, Jake. Appreciate it.